Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu wa salam ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to the Ramadan Lockdown webinar series by the Muslim Circle. We are where we give you, or we invite speakers from all around the world to give a tazkirah or reminder every night, all throughout Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, we've had a number of scholars, a number of talks already, very, very good talks, alhamdulillah. And tonight is still, inshallah, another very special talk. My name is Brother Dean. I am the moderator and your host for tonight. And with us today, we have Sheikh Gabriel Al Romaani. So a little bit about the Sheikh shortly. If you're new to this Ramadan lockdown webinar series, as I mentioned, we go live every night, 9:30 p.m. in Malaysia time, live on Zoom and on Facebook. And if you happen to miss it, or you want to catch the previous talks, you can go onto our Facebook and our YouTube, look for Muslim Circle O, and all our talks are there, alhamdulillah. And this talk will also be uploaded onto our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram after the talk, inshallah. Okay, so today's talk is called The Alpha Male in the Last 10 Nights, 10 Days. Alhamdulillah, it's a very interesting topic. So Sheikh Gabriel Al Romaani is the co-founder of ICRA.org. I can't read tonight. ICRA.org. He was born in Romania, and after studying Islam for some years, he converted in 2003. He is a graduate of the Mishkah University in North America, where he completed the bachelor's in Islamic studies. Earlier, he graduated with double major in biology and psychology, mashallah, and also graduated from the Faculty of Education in Canada. He studied Islam with various well-known scholars and has been an active da'i for 15 years, mashallah. And he has appeared on different TV shows such as Iqra TV, Huda TV, Sharjah TV, and The Deen Show. He is the author of, in 2018, he is the author of the Journal of a New Muslim book, and since then he has also published so many articles. He is very active on social media. I think later on maybe we can give the links to your page, Sheikh, explaining Islam to people and coaching new Muslims. He worked as the general director of Al Risala schools, where he was blessed to meet numerous youth from different backgrounds with different issues, and this allowed him to understand their issues and their problems and helped him develop a framework in dealing with challenges that the youth face. He has been coaching and counseling youth and parents for the past 15 years and has helped many return back to Islam, or back to faith, or back to faith, yes. And he is a passionate educator, curriculum developer, and motivator. So we'll have this talk for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. So without any further ado, I'll pass the virtual floor on to Sheikh. Fadlali, Sheikh.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all our sins. We are in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Now the second night is passing by. And we ask Allah to bless even this time of remembering Him. And we make our niyyah even while doing a live broadcast. This is ibad, because da'wah and this mujahida in the deen is ibadah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we ask Allah to help us renew our intentions. Innama al-a'malu bin-niyat, every deed is according to its intention. So we want to make sure that we gain benefit from these next hour or so, inshallah. So the topic today is about the Muslim alpha male, actually, and the name comes, we come up with the name because I'm giving a course towards youth, male youth specifically, And I'm going to say why. I know the sisters might be like, oh my God, why it's all about male, and that's it. No, I'm going to, it's focused towards male youth because that's where we feel that the problem is. And also towards adults, male adults who are about to get married or who are married, and they want to learn how to be a real man. And how to be a real man according to the standard of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba. And that's what we made clear, that this is the standard that we are looking at and looking for. I just want to make sure that we are, it's working, right? You guys can hear me and it's recording, everything's fine, alhamdulillah.
Yes.
So okay, tamam, alhamdulillah. All right. So I'll tell you where it started from. So as the brother Radhi mentioned, that I've been working with youth for quite some time right now. My qualifications, first and foremost, I'm coming from a non-Muslim background. You might say, what kind of qualification this is? It's quite a big one, because you see all the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, pretty much all of them. Abdullah ibn Zubair was the first one to be born in Medina and pretty much to be born into a Muslim family, or on the way. But most of the Sahaba, let's say, majority of them, big bulk of them, were coming from Jahiliyyah, from a non-Muslim background. And that was something that was important because they understood the life that they were dealing with. And Islam came as a solution to problems. I mean, we need to understand that we are in the last 10 nights. We are seeking Laylatul Qadr. And Laylatul Qadr, it's not just about getting 83.4 years of worship. Sadly, this is the only thing that we take out of it. It's about the forgiveness of the sins, no doubt. But what is it? Why is this Laylatul Qadr so blessed? People are aiming at 83.4 years. It is quite individualistic. Like, I want to get my sins forgiven. Very good. It's very important. Don't misquote me. We have to, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man qama laylatul qadr imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." Kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam. Whoever stands and prays Laylatul Qadr with iman, faith and conviction, Allah will forgive all their sins. We know that. We believe in that. We're seeking for it because we want forgiveness. But remember, why is Laylatul Qadr so blessed? Why? It's because Allah revealed the Quran in Laylatul Qadr. Inna anzalnahu fi Laylatul Qadr. Right? Allah ordered and revealed the Quran in Laylatul Qadr. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, read in the name of your Lord who created you. And this revelation was what? It was a solution for a world full of darkness and problems. See, we the Muslims, we have to understand that Allah has put us on this earth, and Allah has given us Islam to fix problems. That's why a lot of people, when they look at Islam, people ask me, what do I gain if I convert to Islam? What do I gain if I practice Islam? Right? And people start saying, Allah will forgive your sins and you gain spirituality. And then people say, yeah, but the other religions also say the same thing, right? Well, yeah, that's good. Of course, all that is correct. However, see, you join the solution to the world's problems. I always say to people, for example, I was have discussion with non-Muslims, and I don't beat around the bush. Okay, we have an academic approach to studying Islam. As you said, I'm the co-founder of ICRA, ICRAA.org, which is a Islamic Center for Research and Academics. Is basically written over 300 articles responding to Oriental criticism of Islam. And we don't beat around the bush. We say it as it is, because you cannot, dumb down Islam. When you dumb down Islam, what's the point? You're basically making a disservice, okay? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah over and over again. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've taken the covenant from Bani Israel. Well, guess what? Allah is telling us about Bani Israel, about the covenant. Which is the covenant? It's about holding on to the faith. It's about obeying Allah. It's about worshiping Allah. And Allah keeps detailing it to Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 10 up to verse 74, 75, even more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps telling us about this covenant that they broke. Right? So Islam is a covenant. Okay? So we cannot water it down. We have to really academically examine and approach. So when I talk to non-Muslims and they say, well, you know, what can I benefit from Islam? I say, you will be the solution to world's problem. If Islam is to rule the world, Islam would eliminate riba, which is the cause of the financial destruction of today's society. Without a doubt, even financial experts from the non-Muslims right now agree that the world is in a mess. Why? Because one slip, one little virus, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ جُنُودَ رَبِّكَ إِلَّا هُ. One jund from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one soldier that only Allah knows, called COVID-19, invisible, no one can hit it, has basically turned the world upside down, has destroyed the economy, because the economy was on a flimsy, premise, on a flimsy foundation, right? Islam would remove, I tell them, Islam would remove injustice. Islam would remove, these social classes that are destroying the world. Islam would remove pornography and alcohol. How many people die every day from that? And prostitution. Islam solves problems. The world doesn't see that these are big problems, so Islam solves problems. So going back to why this big introduction. See, when I became Muslim 16 years ago now, almost 17, subhanAllah, and I tried to say, when I started reading the Quran in English, I had no clue how to read Arabic yet. Slowly I started learning, but I start seeing and analyzing. I start believing with my heart that this is the truth, no doubt. It's not just a religion. I'm coming from kufr. I left a life of great things, you know what I mean? I left a life of popularity and. So I said, if I'm here, and because I really believe from the bottom of my heart, but I see that there's a lot of problems. So I said, what's the thing that I can deal with? I need to focus. As a Muslim, I want to focus to solve some of the problems. What are my set of skills? So I went to education, and I like education, and it's linked to what I do. So education was my thing. It was still very broad. Education in general. Okay, and then I got into dawah, of course, and to khutbahs, and start learning deen, and start going from, to study with different, mashayikh. And then as time passed by, through my experiences, I became a teacher. So I started teaching. Then I started interacting with different students. Then I started, of course, I went to the Middle East, and I was teaching in male schools. So because my exposure was mainly to men, I started seeing the problems, but I saw problems of females as well. But I focused on male. Then I got into management. Then I became a school principal, general manager. Years passed, counselor, dealing with families, dealing with students, and so on. So I started narrowing it down more and more and more and more. Bottom line, what did I find? That the problem is that I believe that stopping the Muslim Ummah from being connected to our history of Islam, from being connected to the Prophet ﷺ, to the Sahaba, to the victory of Islam, to the strength of Islam in the world, I pinpointed to the fact that we are lacking masculinity. We are lacking iman, and I'll explain to you. That's why I call them Muslim alpha men. Why? Because see, Muslim, no doubt, the iman, the knowledge, that is the basis. Number one, it has to be there. It has to be in submission to Allah. It has to be in sync with what Allah has revealed. So the Muslim alpha. Why the word alpha? Because the word alpha, it means leadership. It means the leader of the pack. It means someone strong, someone who's determined. And when you look at the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, pretty much the majority of them were like that. You're talking here about, look at who was around the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr. Yes, he was soft, sometimes crying, and that's not mistake softness, for weakness. Okay, he was emotionally, but when it came to the Ruba Ridda, with the wars of apostasy, he was so strong, right? You had Omar Khattab. Let's not even talk about Omar and how strong he was. And you had Ali ibn Abi Talib and Uthman ibn Affan and Khalid bin Walid, Abdullah ibn Zubair, Az-Zubair ibn Awam, Hamza, okay, ibn Abi Talib, and Sahabas who, when we read their seerah and their lives, we find strength, we find masculinity, we find Muslim alpha men, M-E-N, not males. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created many males in this world. There are many males in this world, but there are not enough men, real men. And these men have gone through a process, through a tarbiyah, to become who they were. And the Prophet ﷺ was their murabbi. And even before that, they had certain characteristics, even their jahiliyyah. And that is why some scholars say that Allah has sent the message to them, because they had these characteristics of shuja', being brave, of being, very giving and very kind, and so on and so forth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed that. And that's why the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I've been sent to perfect manners. When people read this hadith, they think it's like how you sit at the table and how you shake hands with people and how nice you are. All that is included. But again, I make an argument in my lectures and the way I give my da'wah that we need to contextualize. When we understand something, for example, akhlaq, manners, okay? When we talk about manners, what is it? Is it just what is okay to do today because it's just very convenient? Or is it really what the Prophet ﷺ did? Who defines what is akhlaq? Like wasatiyah, okay? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Who defines this word wasat? Because everyone says we are a balanced nation, middle path. We use the word the middle path or whatever words we come up, all kinds of jargon and terminology to satisfy really, the criticism that's really aimed at us. But my argument is that these terms are decided by the context of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. That's why, again, I argue that studying the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, studying the hadith is so important. When Allah says, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. When Allah says that He protect this Quran, one of the reasons and ways, as the scholars all say, that the fortress that protects the Quran is the Sunnah. It is the seerah, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, because it brings context. Because previous religions were able to distort Islam through interpretation, appeal to interpretation. While in Islam, you can't, because everything is contextualized. The Prophet ﷺ is moving, acting, saying, explaining, doing this, doing that. There's critical details given in hadith that does not allow people to just start saying, well, this is your interpretation and I have mine, and let's just go ahead and do whatever. No. Okay? So going back to the main point, I've realized that this issue is huge, that this ummah needs to revive real men. Okay? Sadly, I'm not accusing anyone. I'm sure that there's still some real men out there. But let us look around. Guys are quite weak these days. Media is attacking them. The term, toxic masculinity. Media is requesting, is pushing with movies, with Gillette just released a commercial recently about, it's like real men, what they consider men, are just the ones who are chasing women and harassing them and just flexing their muscles and just beating themselves in the chest and breaking beer bottles on their heads and fighting in UFC and doing wrestling. This is the definition of the Western concept, supposedly, of the real masculinity. Riding motorcycles, Harleys, and just burping and having, big beards and looking all, so harsh, and just women are just for use, And that's not our motto. That's not our motto. We argue that it's not our motto. And of course, but when that is pushed to the media, then Muslim females, Muslim societies, and non-Muslim society, of course, they start getting all, worried, and they fight such a concept. And now you find that our young boys, don't have who to look for as models. If I ask you right now, give me one Muslim model, male model, okay, that is following Islam properly and is successful in this dunya, strong, and does not compromise their principles. Why? Because this is how the Sahaba were. This is how the Prophet was. He didn't compromise his principle. He was strong and he was successful. Give me one. Think about all of you right now. Think of, including the host, think of one role model right now that you can come to your mind and you can say, I think this one, I want to be like him. Very, very few, if here and there, and even that can be debated, right? So our youth, when I have my sessions with them and I ask them, who's your role model? They'll start naming non-Muslims mostly. Non-Muslims mostly. They will say Ronaldo, Messi, I don't know what, a movie star, or what songwriter or performer or, actor, and so on and so forth. Because we don't have, for them, they're looking, you have to fulfill the criteria. I mean, we can name different people, but a lot of times these people are not really successful in the dunya. They're not really, because success in this dunya is paramount to, being independent, having financial stability, and so on. Of course, that's not just the definition of a Muslim, but it is important. It is important. Well, people will say, no, brother, it's about the akhirah in Islam. This is, again, where we've kind of been misled, I would say. Even through some of our talks and our discussion, we kind of been misled to the wrong way in thinking that we should have no share of this dunya, and let's kind of move to the side and allow the kuffar to take over, the non-Muslim. And they do it very well, and they lead and they drive the car. We kind of sitting in the back seat. We didn't produce Facebook, they did. We didn't produce Instagram, they did. We're using it. We didn't produce Zoom, they did it. We're using it. We're consumers, they're producers. They didn't, we didn't produce Coca-Cola, we didn't produce McDonald's, we didn't produce Apple, we didn't produce Samsung, we didn't produce, Hawaii. We didn't produce, anything really, if you think about it right now. We keep talking about the past, but we're living in the present right now. Okay, so we are consuming what they're feeding according to their standards. And we don't even know, but our character, our personalities are changing. And it will be a time where we will not recognize ourselves. And that is why more and more Muslims are fighting Islam today on an intellectual level in many countries, including this country, because they cannot resonate. They cannot resonate with it. So hence the temper argument. Oh, Islam is for the 14 centuries ago. Right now we're living in the modern world. Let's change, let's reform. We only take from it salah. It's very easy to pray, even though most people don't pray. It's very easy to fast. It's very easy to just pay some sadaqah here and there. No doubt. No doubt. And Allah says, أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْدِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْدِ. Do you believe in some of the book and you reject some of the other? This is where we're going. We're heading to a point where we might not recognize each other. When I deal with youth, a lot of them have problems with the Prophet ﷺ, his actions in his life, the Sahaba, the history of Islam, what happened. They say this is not, this is not fair. This is not, civilized. Oh my God, this is very harsh. The punishments of Islam. Slowly, and you know what I'm talking about, right? We cannot use the term jihad because right away we'll be labeled as terrorists. So hence you want to scrap all the Sahaba and all the great history of Islam of opening, because everything is now by defense. No, it was by offense, okay? The Muslims opened the whole world by offense. Why? Because they wanted to bring people out of the darkness into the light. Now, we're not calling for anyone to be hurt. We're not calling for anyone to do anything retarded. We're not, sorry, by the word retarded, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that. But basically, anything wrong, okay? Let me correct myself, because then someone might say that I have a problem with a certain group of people, people are very critical today of what you say. They kind of sit on the screen and they just try to take notes. Oh, at minute 5.16, Sheikh said this and this, or one word. Let's blast them online. We have this kind of people who just wait there for any small mistake or slip of tongue so they can expose you. It's amazing. We have this tabloid, mashallah, tabloid nation these days. But what I'm saying is that who do I show my youth when they come and they want to look for some model, for a role model, a male role model? Almost no one. And not to mention that even though the ones that are past are buried, they're buried even deeper by propaganda and by the threat of modern society, which, mind you, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْلِمُونَ. I mean, they are using the alpha male concept. They are powerful. They are strong. They're teaching their people to be strong, to take over, to push forward. But of course, for the Muslims, we should just kind of sit back and relax. So we're not at the forefront. And that's what I'm saying, right? When you want to choose a team to follow in the Premier League, what you're going to do? You're going to look at who's got the best score, who's got the best goals, who's got the most points, who's got the best players. And you're going to say, okay, I'll follow this team. I mean, the same thing. The world looks at who is it, the leadership, who wants to be really. And alhamdulillah, is by Allah's blessing. And it's a miracle that people are entering Islam afwaja, okay, in groups. But really, the question is, again, how many stay? And the question is, how many are really valuable and they really bring a solution to the problems of the world? Okay, the Sahaba, as I said, they went forward up to the walls of China. They went forward, okay, to the walls of Istanbul, of Constantinople at that time. They went forward because when Rustum asked them, what do you want? They said, we want to bring people from the worship of the creator to the worship of the creator, from the enslavement and the tightness of this dunya to the vastness of the akhirah, from the injustice of man-made system to the justice of Islam, right? These were powerful people. You're talking about, the Sahaba, subhanAllah, there's no, I mean, people think of the Sahaba as like some, angels, you know what I mean? So they don't even want to get close to them and trying to copy them. Okay, so no doubt the Sahabas are the best. But you have, someone like Tariq bin Ziyad. Okay, he was like 19 when he entered Andalus, and you have Muhammad bin Qasim. Okay, who took Pakistan and India, Sindh, and you have Muhammad Fatih, Sultan Muhammad Fatih, in his 21 when he opened Constantinople. I mean, can anyone say that these people are, subhanAllah, I mean, youth with a purpose, people with a purpose, male, real men, who carry this deen. Today, our boys don't have a purpose. So when I try to teach my boys, and I have a lot of boys because I consider them all my boys, hundreds if not thousands of kids around the world who follow and who I teach, who I deal with and I've dealt with over the years. And I consider my boys, and I look at them and I say, what is the problem? Why can these boys be successful Muslim men, real alpha men? Why alpha again? Allah said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. He has made us as leaders. The Muslims are supposed to be leaders. You cannot force people to convert to Islam. You cannot force someone to change their religion. But Islam should be liyuthhirahu ala dini kulli. Islam is at the forefront. So when people don't have a purpose and a sense in life, then how can they feel like they're going to achieve something? So then they fall second, third, fourth, fifth. They don't strive. Then you hear some lectures. Okay, the akhirah is coming. Inshallah, we'll have it in the akhirah. So they move even lower and they allow for others to fill in the gaps, which causes more problem to the world, which misses the ideas of what we're supposed to. We're supposed to solve the world's problem, not to step down. We're supposed to step up. And that's what makes a real Muslim alpha man, that he steps up to the challenge. He is fair. He is honest. He is strong though, okay? We are teaching people that we shouldn't be strong. It's something negative, right? Because we're being bombarded by propaganda from, the other side, where this kind of belief, this kind of approach is wrong. What do you mean strong? Sit down, listen, don't act, keep quiet, don't do anything. But the hypocrisy is crazy because their culture pushes for, again, as I said, UFC, people to bash each other's faces, strong, military, always these movies with action heroes and strong, right? So they are pushing, and for us, that's not allowed. It's not allowed to look up to, Justice League and all these gods and demigods, to our children, but they do. But for them, it's allowed, right? So they look up to Thor and up to these guys, Aquaman and big muscles and all, and they look up there like, wow, Spider-Man, I want to be like them. They do their Halloween things, dressing up like them, right? And the Muslims say, no, haram, it's not allowed. Of course it's not. But you see, for their side, they have people to look up to. They are pushing this, they're strengthening. But for us, we have to be pushed down and we have nothing to strengthen. So then we have, moving forward, these boys get confused. They don't know what to look to. They look at the non-Muslim side for examples, and then they have this hybrid personality as they grow up. They've been indoctrinated from, Netflix, from social media, from, all the way from the bottom, from, Disney Circle and all these cartoons that they watch, and they get, indoctrinated from the beginning. Then they grow up but they say I'm Muslim, but then they're confused. And then they find a juncture in their life where they're like, am I really a good Muslim? Like, is it really what it is? And they start studying Islam a bit and they get confused because what they've been taught their whole life goes against what is Islam, or what is Islam goes against what they've been taught their whole life. The only thing that they had really from Islam was Salah and maybe Siyam and their name. And then they kept going day to day thinking that this is the full of Islam. Yeah, I go to the masjid with my dad and so on and so on. But then they open the books of Sirah and Hadith and say, I don't agree with this hadith. I think this is not correct. I don't agree with this part of Islam because I don't think it doesn't make sense to me, right? So you have this hybrid population of confused males, okay? And then they get married, and then confusion on the women's side is another story. Okay, I'm not going to deal with that, and I'm not a female. I do talk about that as well, of course, and I'm sure it causes a lot of controversy, but that's okay. I don't care about that. It's fine. I speak with proof. And if anyone wants to disagree with me, they're free to do that. I'm not going to be scared of that. But the problem is that now they get married, and what's the point of this union is to establish the building block of the ummah, right? So now they've completed their deen, right? As the hadith said. So now they completed their deen through marriage, and now you have a confused female who's coming from, confusion and, all kinds of things where women's supposed to be like this and like this and like this. Even they masculize women, and they have to be like men, had to, shoulder to shoulder. They have to fight independent. They have to, who are you to tell me? I don't need to depend on a man. I can take care of myself. All these things are being pushed through music, to popular culture, pop culture, you name it, movies. And then you have two people coming together through marriage, and the man doesn't have the ability, the strength to lead the family. And then most of the time, the woman lead the family. Okay, a lot of times this is what's happening today. And in the name of peace in the house, the man keeps quiet, and then things happen. And of course, people are gonna be upset with this, but Allah put the man in charge of women, okay, and in charge of the family. It is a responsibility. And that's why Allah says in the Quran that I have not sent except men, and I've been revealed message only to men, because they're the leaders. Men are imam, okay, leaders. The women don't lead salah. Men are leaders in general. The Prophet said, the affair of the people who rest with the woman are bound to go down. Why and this and that, people are going to get upset. I'm not going to debate. This is what the Prophet said. People will start saying that it's about certain people, and it's not. It is a very general statement. And if you look throughout the history of Islam, it's pretty much been like that. Yeah, sometimes some women here and there have held some positions, and no doubt about it. In the time of the Prophet, you don't find it. You don't find a woman leading the army or leading a delegation or anything like that. Why? Because women are bad or something, or they're not good? No. It's because Allah has decreed who has what position, and the two come together and they play as a team. Okay, a football team has a striker, okay, and that is the male, and it has the goalie, okay, and in our case, this is the female, and the two are a team together, and they perfect each other, and they help each other, and the goalie doesn't get, distracted and doesn't get jealous as to why the striker scores all the goals and is in the front. Okay, the woman doesn't get angry just because she's very careful of her net and the goal, and she defends it, because if she wants to go up to score goals as well with the forward, then the goal is untended and the other team will score and the team loses. It is together, it is complementary. It's not like one is bad and they should know. Allah, the goalie, he can score some goals, maybe he can shoot the ball, but he's the best at defending the net. Okay, and I'm sure the forward can also maybe jump after some balls, but he's the best at forward. And that's how Allah has created men and women. Men are best at something, women are best at something. When they come together, they form this great ummah. And this is throughout the history of Islam has been like that. You might give me an example or two that's about, some exemptions that prove the rule in the end, but that doesn't stand against the overwhelming evidence. But the question is, why do people have this kind of mentality? It's because they've been pushed to believe this. They've been pushed to destroy what? That union of the family. A real man with a real woman. And now they're not. They're confused, and they come in, and the marriage doesn't work because the woman doesn't know her rights. She doesn't know her responsibility. The man doesn't know his rights, doesn't know his responsibilities. They go for some lectures. Someone says this, someone says that. People don't agree. They take what they like, and then there's problem. But the man, he's been made to be a leader. Okay, so I'm again focusing on the man. He's been made to be, Allah has given him this responsibility. Allah says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّمُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Sadly, recently I was looking a lecture by one of our African-American sisters at probably an ISTA conference or something like that in the US. And she was addressing this verse. And it was a big, big gathering. And just the mistake that she made, I'm not going to say her name, I'm not going to, but it's important to highlight this thing. The mistake that she made in the word qawamun, and she said, and anyway, forget about the mistake in the Arabic language. But the issue is that the solution to all the problems that she listed against males and what the problems with them is real men and women who are real, who understand Islam. Islam is a solution, not a march against Donald Trump, not a march against, with the Me Too movement. The solution to her problems as a Muslim and to the world at large, the female population in the world at large, whether they accept Islam or not, is Islam. Is a real man who will lead and who will protect and who will understand how to give, her woman what she deserves, how to please her, how to love her. how to treat her, how to respect her, and vice versa, because she's supposed to do that, of course, right? So good men are for good women, and good women are for good men. But we don't have good men. We don't have good men. And of course, because men are out there more, they get hurt a lot more. Okay, they get damaged a lot more. And we have right now, as I said, this confused ummah. Okay, guys don't have knowledge of Islam. One of the first criteria, you might ask, what is a real man anyway? What is this Muslim alpha man? Okay, again, just to summarize, the criteria is based on contextualizing the life of the Prophet ﷺ, the Quran, the Sunnah. We took out that a real man, a real Muslim alpha man, okay, number one, has iman and knowledge. Okay, this is very important. This is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that talabul ilm faridatun ala kulli Muslim. Every Muslim is responsible to know his deen. That's where everything, the basis of everything is knowledge and faith. Okay, number two, a real man has courage. When you look at Khalid bin Walid, you look at Abdullah bin Zubayr, you look at Abdullah bin Mubarak, you look at Hamza radiallahu, you look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look at all the Muslim Sahaba. Give me one coward. Give me one coward. And when I mean cowardly, I don't mean like people are shaking. They stood for justice and truth no matter what. When Hamza came to the Kaaba and he heard that the Prophet ﷺ was insulted, he went in front of everyone. He didn't care about anything because he stood up for what is just. And that's why Allah changed his heart. He was not a Muslim yet. He was not a Muslim at that time, but he said it. I also follow the religion, my nephew. Because he stood for justice. He smacked the living thing out of Abu Jahl. And this is the reality. Oh, brothers, violence is not good. No. No. Okay, this is not violence. Violence is something uncontrollable. Violence is something where it's oppressed and oppression. No. This is fighting. This is strong men who know how to defend and have skills. Okay, these people are brave. When the Prophet ﷺ was riding his horse with the sword around his neck, and he's checking out things at night where everyone heard a big scream, this is bravery. When the Prophet ﷺ in the battle of Uhud, everyone's attacking him, this is bravery. Okay, these were the brave people. These were the brave people of the Ummah. Bravery. They were not scared. We read about these stories, we did khutbahs, but in the end, when it comes to them, we're so shy to even admit these things because, again, the propaganda comes and hits us very hard and makes us bury our heroes even deeper. And then our kids are left alone to think, so who do I follow? Where's my role model? Who's the real man? Oh, it's not good because these guys were terrorists. I cannot, I cannot. So what's happening now, the Muslim countries, including, are trying to remove from the curriculum these battles and this history because it's causing problems. The non-Muslims are not removing Caesar and Napoleon and Alexander the Great or any of the big non-Muslim warrior figures, right? They are proud of them. You can study them in university settings. It is the pride of the nation, Napoleon, and blah blah blah. But the Muslims are pushing it down and digging the ground deeper and deeper to push them down and down. And they wonder, why are my boys acting all weird, and flimsy? Why are my boys now not real men? Why can't they stand up for justice? Why do they get scared from their own shadow? Why don't they, do something what's wrong? Why don't they take responsibility and charge? Why are they lazy? Why do they expect their women to work? Why are they just, sleeping the whole day? Why don't they have a purpose in life? Why are they turning to drugs? Why are they turning to alcohol? Why are they committing zina? Why are they addicted to pornography? Why? And we are trying to solve problems and we're not hitting the target because we're not able to hit the target. They don't have the right tools. You know what I mean? So it's important to understand this. There's a great problem of this emotion, this issue. So courage is very important. After courage is the issue of, I think the number 3, right? Is a real man knows how to fight. A real man knows how to fight. You look throughout the seerah, including the Prophet ﷺ, he was a warrior. He wasn't like, Khalid bin Walid or anything like that, but he knew how to fight. And when that pagan Meccan, who he had the issue from before, from Mecca, he says, I will kill you. He says, no, I will kill you. When he charged at him during one of the battles, the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, should we jump in? He said, no, leave him to me. And he had a spear and just smashed him, right? oh, but he's وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, right? No. Yes. Again, even رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, we understand it within the context of his life. He defines what رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ means, not us. He's not, أعوذ بالله, someone who will not hurt a fly or anything like that. No. He was brave and he knew how to fight. All the Sahaba, pretty much, without exception, pretty much knew how to fight. There's only, I guess Hassan ibn Thabit, the poet of Prophet was not that great of a fighter. But in general, the Sahaba were all fighters. They all knew how to fight. And today, I don't know. And it's linked to courage. It's not about just putting your kids in karate and ichni, sanshi, go rokshi, chachkuj, or something like that. No. It's not just about putting in, it's about really developing that courage and ability to defend, not just to defend, but to know how to attack if you have to. Okay? But again, that's pushed down. Most of the boys don't do that. And then we wonder in the school why they get into fights, why they get into trouble, and then we press them down even more, we tell them it's wrong, of course, all kinds of rules, and then we dumb them more and more and more and more, and they lose their masculinity. So imagine in their developing stages, they're not allowed to move, they're not allowed to go, they're not allowed to do this, they're not allowed to do that, they don't have an avenue to express their strength, their so on, and then slowly, we have a population right now, subhanAllah, we're suffering, from cross-gender issues and homosexuality and all these things. And people are saying, well, where is it coming from? Oh, no, they're born like that, subhanAllah. Really? Is it? It's not like that. Okay, no, it's not. They're not. They're just confused and they start doing, they're bored. They don't have a purpose in life and they start doing all kinds of things. And then it ends them up into this. I've been dealing with boys, Muslim boys, Arab Muslim boys for 10 years. Okay, as a teacher, as a principal, you name it. And one of the main things is that, imagine, their forefathers were warriors. Their forefathers were people who stood for justice. They're people who led the world. And here you have, a generation that's confused and has nothing to do with their phones in their head all the time, doing midwah, this kind of drug that they're doing, and just kind of, playing with cars, pretty much, you know what I mean? Alhamdulillah, at least that's some kind of masculine thing, But, there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of, sexual issues, a lot of, confusion. Sadly, this is what I had to do for 10 years, and it was an epidemic. It was not just a case here, a case there. It was an epidemic, I remember teaching a class of grade 12 English, and, I got close to my boys, and there's 24, 26 students in the class, 26 students. And, only 2 of them were not engaged in homosexual acts, out of the 26. And they said, this is our culture, it's normal, it's okay, no problem. And I was shocked. And again, I asked myself, why? And I look again and I say, they have no purpose. They don't understand what's a male, what's masculinity, because it's been stripped away from them. And they don't have a way to express themselves. They don't have a purpose and an objective in this life. You know what I mean? So this is something that we need to be very, very careful. So a real man, he knows how to fight. That's why I say to parents, put your kid in martial arts. Teach them how to be real men. Teach them how to defend their family. Teach them how to be brave, face fears, and so on and so forth. Because that is one of the skills that the Sahaba had. Okay. Another one, number 5. Let's say number 5. Stability, financial stability, success in this dunya. Now, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives this to whom He wants. He is the one who gives the qadr. But we need to strive. Allah says, فَابْتَغِ فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ دَارُ الْآخِرَةِ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. So you should seek with what Allah is giving in this dunya and the hereafter. You should strive in this dunya to earn the hereafter, but don't forget your part in this dunya. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Right, we're asking for the best in this dunya as well. That's what I said. When someone looks at an example in this dunya, I know people keep saying, it should be good in salah, good in this. But in reality, when people look at what is success in this dunya, and they look at financial strength, stability, success, and so on, these are not the most important things, no doubt, for Muslim. But they are there, and the Sahabas had it. Uthman was very wealthy, Abu Bakr was very wealthy, they were very successful. Many of the Sahabas were like that. and many of them showed that strength. Sorry. Okay, so it's important to see, again, to contextualize it. Were they, yes, they were monks in terms of they worshipped Allah, they had zuhd, and they didn't care. It was in their pocket, it was not in their hearts, but they really, really were successful. So today, where is the success? We leave it as like, no, it's not good, it's haram, you know. Again, we've been fooled to believe that. And I believe that it's done on purpose. I believe that even from our talks and the people tell you to just stay away and it's not good and so on, I think that they are taking things out of context, because my argument is, look at the Sahaba. They would spend, and Allah says the higher hand, the giving hand is better than the lower hand. And you'll find countless, you know, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, the scholar, mujahid, mujtahid, was sponsoring hundreds if not thousands of people to go Hajj. He was a strong tajir, or, you know, a businessman. Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, big tajir or businessman. And we can keep going on. But the question is, again, why we are preaching to people that it's not good to have anything in this dunya. Rather, we should say you should focus your niyyah. Make sure your niyyah is not for, you know, materialistic things, but you're using this as a means to get you to the akhirah, as a means to get closer to Allah, to spend, to do, as Uthman did, as Abu Bakr did, right? So then, hence, we find that we have this dichotomy where the Muslims are faced like, well, I can't be a good Muslim if I want to be successful in business. And I can't be a good businessman if I want to be a good Muslim. You know, right? It's either or. You find most people are in that circle. They might be practicing, they might be praying here or there, but they're, you know, they're taking riba, they're not following the rules of Islam, and so on and so forth. You know, so it's important for a real man to strive and to have financial strength, to have independence, and to spend this and to use it for the sake of Allah, and to show the world that, hey, we are the producers of this. We're producing this platform. We are the ones inventing this, and you guys follow and you guys consume. We will put the standards of halal and so on in everything, in media, in you know, if you think about it, the main spheres of life, media, who is it handled by? Who lays the foundation or the ethics and morals? They do, not us. Health, again, they do, not us. Education, they do, not us. Imagine what a big one. Education. Military, they do, not us. Business and economy, they do, not us. The whole world is based on an interest-based model, which means Allah SWT says, harb, there's a war against Allah and His Messenger. I mean, it's not, you read the Quran. You know, you're going to say, brother, you're coming with extreme ideas. No, read the Quran, yahi, and understand it. Put it in context. Don't say, no, it's your interpretation. Look at, if you don't like what Allah said, then look at how the Prophet ﷺ understood it and how he approached it and what he said about it. You know what I mean? So who's leading these things, right? It is them, not us. Hence, you know, we don't have that ability, that strength, that leverage to say that, look, we are the ones who are pushing. We are the ones. Back in the days in Andalus, for example, when the Ummah was powerful and strong, the non-Muslims were learning Arabic because poetry, Arabic poetry, was very hip back then. It was, you know, very strong, and non-Muslims were lining up to learn it. They were dressing like the Muslims because they recognized the superiority of the culture. But then again, what did they produce? They produced Cordoba, Alhambra, and so on and so forth. Streets and lights and hammams and, you know, public washrooms, libraries, you name it. You know what I mean? They developed the country, not destroy it. Sadly, today, some of our Muslim brothers who don't understand Islam properly, they try to destroy the world as opposed to build it. So of course, people are not going to like that. You know what I mean? While before, the Muslim Ummah was building and, you know, showing even the non-Muslim that, hey, our system is superior, no doubt about it. You know, right? So that is something important. Number 6, a real man takes care of his appearance, is groomed properly. A real man is clean. The Prophet ﷺ used to be the most beautiful. Allah says, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahu Jameel wa yuhibbu Jamal. So if we look at that, subhanAllah, you know, today the brothers, the males, they don't take care of themselves. I mean, you have on one side the whole craze of, you know, muscles and gym and all that, but a lot of these people like are far away from Islam. And of course, that's inspired from the non-Muslim thing. You know, they pump themselves up with steroids and whatnot. And that's for their masculinity and strength. But the majority is that people don't take care of their looks. They don't groom themselves because they think it is closer to taqwa or piety to look bad, to be dirty, not to take care of your thought. But the Prophet ﷺ did not do that. He says Allah loves to see the ni'mah of his servant on him. And the Prophet ﷺ would take care of his dog, would take care of things. Yes, some of the Sahabas were zahid, and they had the reason and so on. But in general, you find that, Sahabas would take care of them. Their look. The Prophet ﷺ himself, being the first example that we should follow, even before Sahaba, that he was taking care of his look. He was very beautiful. He was very good looking. His body was not overweight. Today we find people they don't care. They're subhanAllah, take care of themselves. And then they wonder why their wives don't respect them, why their wives, stay away from them, why their wives won't, feel comfortable with them. Because what do you think? The woman doesn't want to have a handsome man next to her or someone who takes care of himself. We expect the women to be beautiful, to take care of themselves, we chastise them if they don't. We start looking at others. We start saying, look at her, look at this, look at that. But we never take care of ourselves. A real man takes care of his way, the way he looks, the grooming, the tobe that he wears, the smell. The Prophet used to hate bad smells. And he used to smell the most amazing. Sahaba used to say that when he passes by, you could smell him after. The beautiful smell of perfume. So a real man needs to take care of the way he looks. He needs to work out. He needs to be strong. He needs to, when his wife looks at him, she needs to be pleased. She needs to be happy. Okay, not only when he looks at her, not only one-sided. A real man really gives a real woman something to be proud of. But men don't invest in this. Men don't take care of themselves. So then they let themselves go. And again, the concept of masculinity gets distorted, that it's like dirty and, just sitting with big bellies and hairy and just kind of like, always talking and just looking at women and whistling. And subhanAllah, that's what happens. We lose ourselves. So a real man should really take care of himself. Okay? And there's many, many things that I can talk about more, but basically we have a lot of work to do. And in the last 10 nights, why we're talking about this is because, see, we shouldn't approach the last 10 nights as the end of Ramadan. I don't think so. I don't agree with that. And we find that the Sahaba used to pray after Ramadan that Allah accepts it. So they're still thinking about Ramadan for 6 months, and then 6 months after they're praying for Ramadan to come. And I think the last 10 nights are just the beginning of a new year till next Ramadan, if we make it. I hope Allah allows us more Ramadans. But a lot of us just approach it as the end of something. It's going to end. We're going to crash. Eid is coming. I can't wait. Eat as much as I can. Okay, and so on and so forth, And that's not correct. I think this is the time of change. This is the time when we need to set ourselves straight. So what's the solution to all these problems in these last 10 nights? Okay, the solution is that we need more education. And that's why I offer this Muslim Alpha Man course, and you guys can connect with me on my social media at Gabriel Al Romaani. You can type it. You'll find my YouTube. You'll find my Facebook. You'll find my Instagram. And my talks are about real stuff, man. Alhamdulillah, 90% of mashayikh today, they talk about salah, siyam, many things in the ummah, how to be pious, righteous, female rights, men rights, marriage, all these things is very good, alhamdulillah, and jazakumullah khair. But I think some portion of us should be talking about the problems and how to fix them. We should talk about drugs, alcohol, homosexuality, pornography, addictions, problems, polygamy, you name it. We should talk about this, masculinity, femininity, what's happening, LGBTQ, all the things. We shouldn't be shy. It's our right. It's an academic endeavor. We shouldn't be shy. We're not asking. I give the disclaimer all the time because, these days you can get incriminated very fast. I always say it is our academic analysis of things. Like everyone else has the right to do it. They have courses in sociology, in human psychology, in history, you name it. Okay, so we have the right as well under Constitution, under whatever you want to say. Okay, but we always give the disclaimer. We're not calling for anyone to hurt anyone or any group to take into their own hands matters. No, we're not saying that. That causes chaos. That is not from the Sunnah. That's not how we do it. But we definitely want to open up the debate, a war, and we need intellectuals and we need people who are well-versed to be able to stand up for the future of our children. Here, what I'm talking about for the future are our boys, to really become real men, to be able to dig into our history, to show them the examples, to be able to teach them those skills so they can stand up strongly in their life and whatever they do. right? So education is a big thing. And trust me, I'm coming from an education background. I'm an education consultant, school principal, and the educational system is not geared towards doing that. It is geared towards destroying that. Okay, it is geared towards destroying that. And you know, it's programming. I mean, you know, and TV, of course, that's why TV program. I mean, what do you think it stands for? TV programming. Media programs us, right? So we're gonna watch a TV program today. So no one thinks about what it means, because see, the people who are doing this, they like to throw it in your face. They want to challenge. TV program means TV programming. They program us. Media programs us. Everything programs, and of course, educational system programs us. Harvard right now want to criminalize, you know, homeschooling, for example. Why? Why? Okay, I'm sure maybe there's a lot of homeschoolers who are watching this. Muslims love homeschooling, but they want to do it because you're basically avoiding the system and you're avoiding the program. So imagine if that law gets passed in the UK or in the US or any of the other Western countries, basically you can get arrested for not sending your kids to school and doing homeschooling. Why? Again, because you're avoiding programming, and that means their system is being offset. So educational systems are a problem. And that's why I call for Muslim researchers, scholars to start developing our own curriculums, and for Muslim governments around the world to start acknowledging these curriculums and supporting them and passing it through law, and that we can show at least maybe 1, 2, 3 Muslim countries that it works. And then I'm sure the other ones will implement, inshallah. That's pretty much what I have to say for now, inshallah. I'll stop now. If there are any questions or clarifications that need to be addressed, maybe we can take some of that. I mean, there's a lot more that I can say about this. Trust me, I can go on talking a lot. I'm very passionate about it. And alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept and help us. If I said anything good, this is from Allah. And but I'm quite confident in what I say, alhamdulillah.
I mean, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for that very enlightening and hard-hitting talk, alhamdulillah, and reminder, alhamdulillah. For those of you who, if brothers and sisters who are watching on Zoom and on Facebook Live, Jazakallah khair for tuning in. If you have any questions that you want to ask Sheikh, please post them on the Q&A section on Zoom. You can find it at the bottom of your screen, and also on the comment section on Facebook. All right, so we'll get to that shortly. Sheikh, you mentioned about leadership and men being the leaders, especially in the household. So I've got one question here asking that some men confuse leadership with being abusive or abusive within the family. So where does this confusion come from, and how should women react to such men?
Right. So see, this confusion comes from, again, the distortion of the concept of masculinity. That men think that a real man is the one who, like, you know, comes in the house, kicks the door in, you know, the woman has to take his shoes off, he puts his feet up, needs to be served, and if he doesn't, he'll start breaking everything in the house, including the face of, you know, the family members. And this is something wrong. This is not the Islamic concept of masculinity. You know, a leader is someone who protects, a leader is someone who guides, but yet a leader is someone who has to punish when he has to. And that's another thing that's distorted in Islam, that we're not allowed to take care of and discipline our family members, right? It's something very bad. And of course, there's a difference between that and abuse. People, when they talk about abuse, they come from with all due respect, if you analyze the statistics and if you look at the research, abuse is something that you find mostly in the West, in these free countries, first world countries with all the freedoms. Yet when you look at the statistics, how many women are abused, how many women are beat, how many men are abused, by the way. Women also abuse men. We always somehow have this misconception that always the victims are men. There are countries literally where men are abused by women. And in the USA, you can find some statistics where women beat the living thing out of men, okay, and even kill them. So we need to be a bit rational and fair when we analyze this thing. So definitely the two are not synonymous. A leader is someone who guides this family, pulls this family, takes care of them, Yes, sometimes he has to be harder to make sure that they fall in the way, but is someone responsible, someone who follows the path of Allah, and abuse is not from Islam. Adul dhulumat yawm al-qiyamah. Very clear. This is the rule of thumb. Abuse or dhulm is a darkness on the day of judgment. So it's very simple to deal with. But problem is, again, these so-called men are not real men, these males. Okay, so and they try to solve the solution by changing Islam. The solution is, let's reinterpret the verses in Surah Nisa, let's reinterpret the Sunnah, and nothing has changed. Men are still beating women all over the world and killing them and raping them and abusing them, and women are doing the same. It's not changing anything, because the solution to these problems are, when you practice real Islam, when you understand the mercy and the approach of the Prophet ﷺ, the hikmah and the wisdom, then you will solve these problems. When you're trying to reinterpret things and it's not going to solve, because you still have the abuse, it's still there. And women, a lot of them, yes, they are victims, and they have no one to defend them, and they keep quiet a lot of times. They can't do anything, and that gives the man more and more right to do what he does. While in an Islamic environment, he will be punished severely. He will be punished very, very severely. And the woman could appeal to the qadi, to the judge, and this is her right, and her family could interfere, and there'll be no such thing as abuse. It wouldn't allow it. Islam would not allow it. You know what I mean? So, but it's a problem that we need to fix by getting back to Islam.
Excellent. The next question is, what can women do to man up their husbands if they're too lazy or too metrosexual or too laid back? So what can a woman do, a wife do to man up their husband?
Did you say sexual?
Right?
Did you say sexual? Huh?
Metrosexual.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, even sexual. The men are not pleasing their wives. They're too lazy, and the women are complaining about it. Yeah, because it's it's easier for women. They're receptors, but the men are weak in this. And as you said, they're lazy. And what can women do? Well, women should first and foremost try to pick the right man. Take my course, How to Marry a Muslim Alpha Man. Okay, where we look at the characteristics of what does a real man want from a woman. And what should she look in, and what kind of characteristics should she look in for in a man? And she needs to push him sometimes. But once you get married, it's quite late, because you only get to know a person really after a few months of marriage, a few years, and then you're kind of like you're stuck, and you want to change them, and they're not going to change. So you need to pick your spouse, very, very carefully. If you already picked him, and you're stuck, for a few years now, and I feel bad for you, but send them to our course, the Muslim Alpha Men, where we teach them to be real men, and we really do it. We put gloves on, in our course, and we box even, if you want to know. So we'll send them back home to you, and you'll be happy, inshallah.
Inshallah, right? Okay. The next one is misogyny a significant problem in Muslim societies?
Yeah, it is, again, because they a lot of the cultures think that they have to show their masculinity through being tough and being male centric and so on, and in doing that they oppress the other side. While, again, I always say, if we want to understand what is, and of course misogyny is a Western term that's been coined by them, and it's coming from them, but it's definitely something that exists in our societies, because again, men don't understand. If you don't know what it is to be a real male, a real man, if you don't have an example, then you're gonna go all astray. So again, you open up your media, which is conditioning us, and you try to look for a real man. Who is it? It'll be someone who's buffing up, someone who's fighting in UFC. It'll be WWE, whatever, wrestling. It will be, these kind of things that you see in the TV. So then that's what they see, and that's what they start following. mean, you don't have a real example, as I said, where you can say, okay, this is the concept of masculinity that I should follow. It's not in our educational system. We're not focusing on teaching them how to be real men. So misogyny is going to be all over, of course, for those who are trying to be men. So they're missing the target. They're on one extreme. And the other one, as the sister said in the previous question, they're the lazy ones who are just, they can't perform. They're just kind of doing whatever it is, as being couch potatoes.
Right. The next one is, how should Muslims tackle the growing trend of feminism in Muslim societies, let alone in the West, or especially in the West?
Yeah, this is a trend and a movement that's kicking our backs. You know what I mean? It's really destroying us. And it starts from the men. The men can do it by, again, being real men. See, because women, they're basically, there's this void. They're angry. They're not satisfied. They're not happy. And they start revolting. And because men didn't practice proper masculinity, there's no concept. Remember, one of the first thing we said, it's iman and knowledge. When you have iman and knowledge, you're not going to hurt the women the way people are doing. You're not gonna, not give them the rights and so on and so forth. So they have to fill in a void. So these women have stood up and have come together. Of course, it's led by non-Muslims again, and the Muslim women have joined that. And they're talking about independence, femininity, and so on. They're turning to lesbianism, a lot of them, and really thinking that we don't need men anymore. We can just take care of ourselves and so on. They're not getting married. They don't want to be mothers anymore. There's a huge movement, and even amongst the Muslim sisters, preaching, practicing, teaching this, and they're saying they're ustazas, and they're giving lectures and calling for people to follow them. And of course, as a reaction, a lot of the women who are hurt and had bad experiences will be very appealing to them to join that. So men, they need to really fight that by really practicing true masculinity and according to the Sunnah. And I believe that women will see that, and it is something that attracts them and will set things straight. But women themselves have to be careful of this, and they have to understand, because they will regret it. And already there's a big movement in the West that's regretting joining this movement and missing out on those great years of what they could have been mothers, they could have been wives, they could have been, So now in their mid-40s or 50s are regretting the fact that they didn't do what they're supposed to do. And they're telling women, just chill out and just, be with your husband, stay at home, get married, have children, live your life properly. Don't follow this kind of, ridiculous system. But it's a huge movement. It has a lot of resources. There's a lot of money invested in it. And we really don't have the resources right now and the skill even to go against it. So as you can see, it's spreading more and more and more. We need to have more speakers. The problem is that, sorry to say, our own scholars are scared to talk about this. They are scared to talk against this. We are scared to talk about LGBTQ. We are scared to talk about feminism. Recently, I was speaking to a Western scholar who came to visit Kuala Lumpur, and he said, we'll get destroyed in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? They'll come up, they'll get together on Facebook, Instagram, and they'll rip us in pieces. And then we have nothing, we don't know what to do. And I would say, bro, you're not supposed to be scared, man. You speak the truth and you speak politely, but the more scholars educate our ummah about this, our females, our males, and the more they educate them, they start speaking against these movements and against these new trends, the more people are aware, and the more they realize and they can understand where to put it. But if they don't and they get scared because they'll get taken off from Facebook or from something like that, come on, man, that's not a good reason. We're losing our children one by one. We're losing our women one by one. We're losing our men. I mean, I can understand females, the argument for females supporting this movement, but males supporting this movement, there's a lot of males who are supporting now this movement. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But it goes to show how strong it is. So I call upon scholars to talk more, to educate more, to intellectually, I said this is an intellectual battle and we shouldn't be scared to handle it. We have to. We're not calling to hurt anyone. It is an intellectual battle. You have someone like Jordan Peterson from the non-Muslims who's talking continuously about the threat of feminism and attacks on masculinity, and he goes on debates, and he's intellectual. He really breaks it down, you know, and so far he hasn't lost one debate, you know what I mean? But he's articulate, he's able to, and he's not scared. And alhamdulillah, you know, I mean, we need Muslims to do that. We have non-Muslims doing that. And the Muslims are still, most of them, we're talking about salah, siyam, qiyam, which is very important, alhamdulillah. But I believe, you know, this is not going to do anything. I mean, the women say, yeah, we pray. We make siyam, qiyam, as, you know, salah and everything. But you guys are wrong, and we're independent. We don't need you. You know, they start coming up with all kinds of, you know, excuses and all kinds of reasons that why they shouldn't be married, why they can be independent, why they don't need us for anything. We're no good at anything. And there you go. And then who's going to get affected? The future generation, because the ummah is not being developed. The basic building block of the ummah, which is the family, is not healthy. Okay. So yeah.
So I agree. I think there was a speaker who also mentioned this to me. Like whenever they are criticizing feminism, people think that they are criticizing females in general, which is the problem, and they get attacked immediately. So yeah, it's a serious problem, especially in the West. I know you. Sorry, I know you have to go, but just one last question, if you don't mind. You mentioned about the youth and the youth lacking purpose in their lives. So what would you say as a school principal? What would you say to parents or potential parents in terms of where do we start with children, with our teenagers or with our younger children when it comes to instilling this purpose? What is the purpose, and how do we instill this purpose in a young age where we are competing with materialistic things, with like you said, the media, with gadgets, with, you know, the pop culture that's rampant. So how do we start? Obviously we have to start from home, but what are the practical steps that you would suggest?
Yeah. So we know that our purpose in this world is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, right? That's we know. But people don't understand that verse, because again, we take it back to how the Sahaba understood it. Did they just stay and pray in the masjid and just fast? No. So when we tell Muslims usually that your purpose in life is Islam, to worship Allah, we say your purpose is to pray 5 times a day, and that's it. So most people who consider themselves to be really good Muslim, they pray 5 times a day, and that is it. Nothing else. Okay? They'll pay sadaqah, they'll give some donation, they'll come up to a lecture, they'll watch the YouTube videos. They're good people, they don't do anything bad, alhamdulillah. But that is it. And that is, I would say, a very small percentage of what Islam is. Why? Because I say so? No, because we look again at the life of the Sahaba. The purpose of Islam is to be spread. Okay? The purpose of Islam is to be spread. So when we instill that concept of da'wah, or da'wah as you guys say, in the children, so they have a purpose. My son, my daughter, your purpose to wake up every day and think how you can solve the world's problems. What are the world's problems? Where do you see yourself in this equation? Because these kids are going to be the next doctor, the next engineer. So when you prime them to look at how can I use my skills or my future, what I want to do for the sake of Islam, to spread Islam, then you have the greatest purpose, man, to bring people, to save people, to bring them to help them get into paradise. It is one of the greatest purposes you can have in life. But right now we don't. They just say, just pray. If they pray, it's all good. No. You're supposed to start training them to look at how they can bring Islam to this world through whatever means they will be. Well, they'll be a doctor, an engineer, a businessman. But in their mind, it's always that I will bring Islam. I will spread Islam to this world. I will do da'wah. And most people don't think like that. You know, we look at some of the scholars, and we respect them, and we wait for them to do all the work. Imagine if every child in this world, Muslim child, wakes up in the morning by their father and mother telling them, how are you going to save the world today? I want you to spend the next few minutes thinking of the problems, guided exposure to the issues, and then how will you, when you reach that time, and you will know, how will you tackle these problems? How will you solve these issues? You know what I mean? This gives them purpose. This gives them purpose. Dawah gives them purpose in this life. And sadly, we are not doing that. We're not telling them those bad stories about Muhammad Fatih, about the Sahaba, and how they had purpose. They see, when they read the Quran, the scholars who developed the maps based on the stars and were the foundation for navigation for hundreds of years to come, when they looked at the ayat of the Quran, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Right? They used to see in these ayat a call for them to study, to understand, to look, to develop, to discover, and hence they laid the foundation for the world. Medicine is based on the Muslim. Navigations is based on Muslim. Algebra, arithmetic. Actually, this mobile phone wouldn't work if it wouldn't be for the binary code, 0, 1, programming, algebra, all the, the codes that have been invented based on these principles that have been either invented or developed by Muslims. But they saw purpose in these ayat while we just read them to gain ajr. We will get the ajr, inshallah, but they understood it more. They said, we gain the ajr, but we also want to find purpose and live it and implement it. And this is where I believe we're missing out.
All right, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. I think I don't wanna delay you any further. Maybe you can have one last word if you want.
Okay, so I think that, as I said, these are the last 10 nights. It is a time for change. I think parents need to wake up, to the reality of things. Women need to wake up to, remember the mothers of the great Sahabas and the great scholars who knew how to raise real men. Even women knew how to raise real men back in the days. You know what I mean? And the families have to return back to Islam. Wallahi, you'll never solve your problem through feminism, through these movies, through this propaganda, through, even with all due respect to the counseling that's happening today, with all kinds of philosophical and psychological approaches that are not inspired from Islam, with all due respect to Oprah and Dr. Phil and all these kind of approaches, okay, that people are so into, Steve Harvey, you name it, all these people all of a sudden, Ellen DeGeneres or whatever her name is, all these people are solving the world problems, and people follow them and idolize them. This is not the solution, with all due respect. They deserve any respect. The solution to our problem is returning back to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. When women understand what is that, then they will not cause problems for their husbands. And when men understand what is that, then they will not cause problems for their women. And the two can coexist. There are always going to be some issues, no doubt about it. The Prophet ﷺ had family problems. The Prophet ﷺ had divorce. The Prophet ﷺ had issues. There's no doubt about that. But this world is not for, for angels. This world is for us to try to do our best. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So we may be tested which amongst you is the best in their deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us what we deferred in on the Day of Judgment. Allah knows best. Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Brothers and sisters, we've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for your questions and for tuning in live. If you missed a part of it, don't worry, this talk will be uploaded onto our Facebook and our YouTube channel. And on that, you can also find Sheikh Gabriel's links to his pages in the comment section, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Join us again tomorrow at the same time, same place, wherever you are. Tomorrow we will have Ustad Munim Salim giving the talk entitled Attaining the Love of Allah. Right? So see you guys tomorrow. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Jazakallah khair, brothers and sisters. May Allah grant us all Laylatul Qadr in the last 10 nights. With that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.